Okay, so you've really drawn us in with this scenario, this this mouth-watering aroma that's pulling them in from the street, and then the restaurant just totally doesn't live up to expectations.
Yeah.
And then we get that playful bet to just recreate it at home.
Right.
It's such a classic recipe for a perfect date night, wouldn't you say?
What's so fascinating about this whole thing is right from the start, it just taps into this like universal human need for a shared experience, like an adventure.
Yeah.
The initial disappointment actually kind of becomes a springboard to a deeper connection.
Because instead of just like calling it a night, they turn it into this spontaneous challenge.
Exactly. And this whole we can do better attitude, this speaks to this whole psychological principle of shared goals, right?
Yeah.
Studies have shown that when you're working towards a common objective, especially like a fun, maybe slightly competitive one, like in this case, it increases feelings of closeness, like interdependence between people.
Like they're instantly on the same team, you know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That us against the world, that's powerful for a relationship.
And I love how you picked up on the detail about not following a strict recipe.
Yeah.
Like that desire for authenticity just shines through in that little detail.
Yes. That stood out to me too. There's something really beautiful about just deciding to wing it,
Yeah.
to embrace imperfection. It's like
Mhm.
this desire to connect with something real, something genuine,
Yeah.
something personally meaningful. They're choosing to create something unique rather than just like replicating something that already exists.
Yeah, it's like they're saying we're crafting our own experience.
Exactly.
This is ours.
And that co-creation can be incredibly bonding.
Yeah.
Think about it. They're sharing ideas, making decisions together, maybe even disagreeing and compromising. It's a microcosm for what it takes to build a good relationship.
And isn't there also something to be said for how that plays into the element of surprise too? It keeps things exciting.
Oh,
It's a little
absolutely.
unpredictable.
That spontaneity, that willingness to deviate from the script, that's what injects playfulness and excitement. It's all about embracing the unknown together.
And speaking of excitement, this scenario really heats up once they get in the kitchen. We've got music playing, playful banter, even a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
It sounds like my kind of cooking experience.
Yeah. It's amazing how all these tiny little details just add to this overall feeling of intimacy.
Mhm.
The music that sets the tone, the physical proximity that fosters a sense of closeness, right? And even the chaos adds a layer of shared experience.
And the way they're teasing each other about the spice level.
Mm.
One partner stepping outside their comfort zone, the other one playfully encouraging them. It's so relatable.
It is. It highlights the beauty of being vulnerable, letting your guard down, trying new things, even if it means a little discomfort.
Yeah.
The humor, the gentle ribbing, it creates this space where both people feel comfortable just being themselves.
And just when things are really heating up, we've got ourselves a classic kitchen mishap, the spilled wine.
Oh, the spilled wine, a tale as old as time. But what's so interesting here is how they react.
Because instead of getting frustrated or blaming each other, it becomes another opportunity for connection.
Exactly. And that's the power of emotional contagion, right? One person's playful energy bounces off the other, and it escalates into this hilarious, unscripted moment. It's those unexpected bursts of joy, those shared moments of absurdity that create these lasting memories. It solidifies the bond between two people.
It's like they're building this repertoire of inside jokes,
Yes.
these shared stories that only they understand.
And those shared stories, those moments of unscripted joy, that becomes the foundation of a strong, resilient connection.
Yeah.
It's not about avoiding conflict or mishaps altogether. It's about how you navigate them together, how you find the humor in it all, the lightness in the mess.
Okay, I'm taking notes here. Now, amidst all this kitchen chaos, I love this detail about the snack board, the charcuterie, the continuous taste testing.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're intentionally creating a whole sensory experience.
This is such a crucial part of intimacy. The shared sensory experiences, the taste, the smell, the touch, the sounds.
Yeah.
They have such a profound impact on our emotions, and it creates this immersive, multi-dimensional bond.
It's like how a certain scent can transport you back to a specific time and place.
Yes.
But here, they're creating those powerful sensory associations together in real time.
Exactly. And by engaging all those senses, they're basically weaving this intricate tapestry of a shared experience. It makes the memory that much more vivid and lasting.
Okay, so we've got shared goals, authentic experiences, playful energy, sensory delights. Are we missing any key ingredients in this recipe for connection?
Well, there's one more element we haven't touched on yet, and that's the role of alcohol.
Okay.
And it's definitely a topic that deserves a nuanced discussion.
All right, then let's uncork that conversation and see where it leads us. Now, their enjoyment of wine throughout the evening, it raises an interesting point, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Because on the one hand, you see it like enhancing their mood, right?
Right.
Lubricating the conversation, adding to that playfulness.
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, yeah, gotta acknowledge that real connection, like lasting connection,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be dependent on any kind of external substance, right?
Yeah, it's about finding that balance, I guess.
Mhm.
Enjoying it responsibly, but not letting it become like a crutch for genuine intimacy.
Precisely. And I
Hmm.
think what's really important to highlight here is that it's not really about the wine itself, right? It's not like the magic ingredient.
Right.
It's the shared laughter, the willingness to be silly, to be vulnerable. It's the way they handle those little mishaps together. Those are the foundations of a genuine
And
connection.
those are the things that'll stick around when the wine is gone.
Exactly. Think about that toast they share. Cheers, too. When you want something done right, do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's playful, it's triumphant, it reflects this shared sense of accomplishment. They went on this adventure together and created something truly unique, theirs.
And the fact that they're so caught up in the moment, they even forget to take photos. Like
Yeah.
they're completely present with each other. No need for that external validation.
That is such a powerful observation in a world that's like saturated with social media, where we're just constantly bombarded with all these images of curated perfection.
Hmm.
This choice to just be in the moment, it speaks volumes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It suggests this deeper connection, this understanding that the experience itself, that's more valuable than any photograph.
It's about savoring the moment, not
Yeah.
broadcasting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to like the heart of what makes this so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving some like idealized version of romance,
Yeah.
right? It's about finding these moments of genuine connection right there in the chaos, the imperfection of just everyday life.
It's about embracing the messy, the unscripted, the unpredictable.
Precisely. And as the evening winds down, we see this like beautiful shift in energy,
Yeah.
that excitement of the cooking, the laughter, it gives way to this quieter, more intimate atmosphere.
Yeah, whether it's like one helping the other to bed because they had a little too much fun with the wine, or just snuggling up on the couch, there's this like palpable sense of tenderness and care at the end.
Yeah. It's a reminder that like the most profound connections, they often unfold in those quieter moments, when those masks come off and we let ourselves just be fully seen,
Yeah.
appreciated for who we are, flaws and all.
And that little told you so
Yeah.
about the extra glass of wine is so playful, so caring. It shows they're still like attuned to each other, even when they're a little.
A little tipsy.
Yeah.
It's like a subtle affirmation of their bond, a little inside joke.
Yeah.
It speaks to that deep understanding of each other's, quirks, vulnerabilities, all of that.
So as we kind of like start to approach the end of this deep dive here, what's like the one key takeaway you're hoping our listener walks away with?
I think this whole thing just beautifully illustrates that meaningful connection, it's not about achieving some like unattainable standard of perfection.
Yeah.
It's about embracing spontaneity, finding that joy in the unexpected, creating a space where laughter and vulnerability can just thrive. It's about showing up authentically, messes and all, and just allowing those shared experiences, those moments of genuine connection to just unfold.
It's about approaching life and love with this sense of playful adventure.
Exactly. It's not about waiting for that like perfect
Mhm.
moment,
Yeah.
the perfect recipe. It's
Right.
about creating those moments together. One maybe spilled glass of wine at a time.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll explore some really practical ways you can apply these insights to your own life, so stay tuned.
So we've really unpacked this delightful scenario that you've painted for us here.
Yeah.
And I have to say I'm feeling pretty inspired,
Yeah.
but I'm also wondering like how do we bottle up this magic and sprinkle it into our own lives? Right, that's the $1,000,000 question.
Yeah.
And the good news is you don't need a fancy kitchen
Right.
or a perfectly chilled bottle of wine to
Right.
cultivate this kind of connection.
Okay, so where do we begin? Where do we start?
Well, I think the first step is just being more intentional
Okay.
about creating these shared experiences, these moments of genuine connection
Yeah.
in our everyday lives.
What does that look like, practically speaking? Like, what can we
It can be as simple as just like putting down your phone
Yeah.
and like really engaging in a conversation or trying some new activity together,
Yeah.
even if it's outside your comfort zones a little bit.
Like that moment with spice levels.
Exactly. Embrace that playfulness, that exploration
Hmm.
in the kitchen, in your relationship, you know?
And don't sweat the small stuff, right?
Absolutely. Remember that spilled wine?
Yeah.
Life is messy. Relationships are messy. It's not about avoiding those messy moments.
Right.
It's about how you navigate them.
Together.
Together, yeah.
Yeah.
How you find the humor, the connection in all the chaos.
Because ultimately those shared experiences, those
Yeah.
moments of laughter, those vulnerable moments, that's what really bonds us together.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive here, what's one small adventure you could imagine yourself embarking on with your partner,
Yeah.
inspired by this recipe for connection we've been talking about?
Ooh, what a great question to leave our listener with. Because whether it's a spontaneous cooking date gone delightfully awry,
Right.
or just a quiet evening, just sharing stories and laughter, it's those moments, those sparks of joy, those genuine connections, you know. That's what makes life and love so rich and rewarding. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Ever catch yourself wondering what's really going on,
Yeah.
like beneath the surface of a relationship?
Hmm.
Today, we are ditching the whole therapist's couch thing, right?
Okay.
We're putting on like our metaphorical detective hats instead.
Great.
Yeah.
Like it.
Our source material. This seemingly ordinary couple attempts at a home-cooked meal.
Okay.
So picture this. They're staring down a credit card statement, and it's
Mm.
basically like an ode to their favorite takeout places.
Oh, go.
Sound familiar?
Very much so.
The decision to cook together, it's less about culinary ambition at this point and more about just like facing a shared reality,
Yeah.
And here's where it gets interesting. So we quickly learn that one partner is grappling with some pretty heavy news.
Mm.
The specifics, they're never revealed.
Mm.
But the emotional weight, it like hangs over everything, you
Yeah,
know?
right.
Now you might expect like tension, right?
Yeah, totally.
But instead we get something way more intriguing. It's humor, but like as a defense mechanism.
It's classic. Using laughter to mask those deeper emotions. There's actually a psychological term for this. It's called coping humor, right?
Oh, interesting.
When you're faced with stress or uncertainty, our instinct is a lot of times to just deflect with a joke.
Totally.
It can be a way to maintain a sense of control when everything feels chaotic.
Oh, I've been there. Okay, so they're bantering, they're navigating this minefield of unsaid feelings, and then comes this image that really stood out to me in the source material.
Hey.
One of them is juggling an orange, or maybe it was a potato. I don't know, the details are a little fuzzy, but
Okay.
they drop it right on the other person.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
See, this seemingly insignificant detail, right, could actually speak volumes.
Right.
Is it genuine clumsiness?
Maybe?
Perhaps. But it also begs the question, could this be a subconscious bid for attention?
Oh, interesting.
A way to break through the tension, elicit a reassuring touch. It's like, oops, I need you.
Wow.
These little nonverbal cues can reveal so much about what's really going on.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we communicate without even realizing it.
Right.
So we've got this undercurrent of stress, some defensive humor, and then the cooking begins.
Okay.
The course material describes their style as controlled chaos, chopping vegetables, scrolling through TikTok, catching up on YouTube. I even spotted a Tigre Arcana video in the mix.
Of course.
Naturally.
So it's like the perfect illustration of how technology, it just infiltrates even our most intimate moments.
Totally.
Are they truly present with each other, or are those glowing screens acting as like a buffer?
Yeah.
A way to avoid, uncomfortable silences, emotional vulnerability. This idea of shared attention in the digital age, most couples I know struggle with this.
100%. And this next detail, this is the one that had me wondering if they were setting themselves up for disaster.
Okay.
They don't taste a single thing as they're cooking. So no taste tests, just a whole lot of faith in their questionable culinary skills. What could possibly go wrong?
Right, and that's the question, isn't it? I mean, are they approaching other parts of their lives this way too, like charging ahead without even like pausing to assess or taste, to make sure they're even on the right track? This whole cooking experiment, this might be serving up way more than just dinner here.
Oh, for sure.
It's like a glimpse into how they cope as a couple.
Yeah, and the moment of truth, it arrives.
Yeah.
The meal, it's ready.
Okay.
But instead of like that picture-perfect, Instagram spread,
Right.
we get, well, let's just say it's a far cry from Tigri Arcana's culinary masterpieces.
Oh, no.
The source material even mentions they're too embarrassed to even, like, document this disaster.
Wow. And yet this is where the real magic happens. Because in that shared moment of culinary failure, we see vulnerability. They're not trying to impress each other. They're not hiding behind, these carefully curated online personas or anything. They're just two people. Flaws and all, just standing in the wreckage of their ambitious dinner.
I love that. And there's this detail I love. The doorbell rings.
Okay.
And who's at the door?
Who is it?
But the regular takeout delivery driver. The source material even hints that they're, like, practically on a first-name basis at this point.
Stop. Such a telling detail, though. It speaks to the comfort of routine,
Right.
the familiarity that takeout represents. It's like, when life throws these curveballs, sometimes we just crave those predictable, comforting rituals.
Totally.
It's like their go-to takeout order. It's the safe haven amidst all the chaos.
It's like they needed that culinary flop, to really appreciate the beauty of a perfectly delivered pad thai.
Right, exactly.
But then the mood shifts.
Okay.
So they're laughing about this whole debacle, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly one of them just breaks down in tears.
Wow.
It's like they were holding it together all night and then suddenly the dam breaks.
This is where we see the power of shared experience.
Yeah.
Of emotional contagion, the act of cooking together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a complete kitchen catastrophe,
Yeah.
created the space for a genuine connection. They let their guards down, revealed their vulnerabilities, and that shared laughter, it created a safe space for tears.
It reminds me of that saying, laughter through tears.
Mhm.
It's raw. It's this beautiful expression of human emotion,
Yeah.
But this is where the source material leaves us hanging.
Oh.
What happens next?
That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Right.
We're left to just ponder the possibilities.
It feels like a real turning point, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like this whole cooking disaster, it cracked something open in their relationship.
Exactly. And it underscores that idea that sometimes the most profound connections happen not in spite of our failures, but like because of them.
Right.
It's in those moments of vulnerability when we let go of needing everything to be perfect and we can embrace, the messiness of life. I think that's where real intimacy can happen.
Totally. So we started with this deep dive into a disastrous cooking date. But it's become about so much more. I mean, we've explored coping mechanisms, the impact of technology on our relationships, the power of shared experience. What stands out to you as the most significant takeaway here?
For me, it's the reminder that relationships, they thrive on authenticity.
Yeah.
We are so bombarded with these like curated versions of life,
Oh, yeah.
especially online. It's easy to forget how important it is to just be ourselves.
Right.
Flaws and all.
Totally.
This couple, with their complete, inability to make a decent meal, they stumbled on something way more meaningful, the freedom to be vulnerable with each other.
And it makes you think about those, seemingly insignificant rituals in your own life. Those moments where if you really like slow down and pay attention, they reveal these deeper truths about like your connections with the people around you.
Absolutely. I mean, what hidden dynamics are playing out right in front of you?
Yeah.
What unspoken needs are kind of bubbling up. It's an invitation. I think we should all take it to look beyond just the everyday and uncover the extraordinary, that's hidden within our most ordinary moments.
It's all about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
There you go.
So today we're diving into something that seems really simple.
Okay.
A couple's, pre-cooking ritual.
Mm-hmm.
But as we kind of dig into this, I think it's amazing how much it kind of reveals about the relationship.
What we dismiss as everyday routine can actually be really
Right.
revealing in terms of how couples work and their unspoken communication and their values even.
It's like that whole thing. We are what we repeatedly do. So even if it's just like, oh, we cook dinner every night,
Right.
this is a window into how they are as a couple. And in
Yeah,
this case, they're
absolutely.
they're really detail-oriented, like the recipe saved. It's like they're
Yeah.
approaching this like it's a special event.
It's interesting you say that because researchers have actually looked at the role of ritual in relationships and especially around food.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a study titled Shared Anticipatory Pleasure, a behavioral and neural analysis. And they found that shared anticipation, like leading up to a meal, can actually heighten the enjoyment.
That makes total sense.
Yeah,
Build it up before you even get there.
absolutely.
And speaking of anticipation, I noticed in the source that one of them brought the recipe to the other one, which
Yes.
is kind of what cooked this whole thing off.
Right.
Any significance there?
Absolutely. It speaks to a dynamic of initiative and shared enthusiasm. That seemingly small act suggests that they value each other's interests and that they find joy in creating these shared experiences together.
It's not just about the food. It's about, let's do this together.
Precisely, it's about bringing joy to the relationship through these small, deliberate acts.
Okay, so we got the recipe, the anticipation's building, they're prepping, now they got to cook,
Right.
and this is where the source said they were like a choreographed dance team.
I love that.
They just like knew when to step in, when to step out past the salt.
That's great.
It was like an unspoken thing.
Yeah, and that choreographed dance in the kitchen can often reflect broader relationship dynamics, how couples communicate, how they divide tasks, how comfortable they are sharing their space.
It's like their movements in the kitchen are like a metaphor for how they move through life together.
Yes.
There's one little thing I saw, though.
Okay.
They each add their own spices at the end.
Okay.
So they do it together, but then they're like, okay, I need a little more pepper, you need a little more salt. Right. Is that a crack in their connection, or is there something else going on there?
I wouldn't necessarily see it as a crack, but rather an example of how couples navigate individuality within togetherness.
Okay.
In psychological terms, this relates to the concept of differentiation and integration in relationships.
Okay, now you're going to have to break that down for me.
Okay, so essentially it's about finding that balance between maintaining your own sense of self while also being deeply connected to your partner.
Okay.
So in this case, they're creating something delicious together, but still honoring their unique tastes and preferences.
So it's not a complete merging. It's like complementing each other's flavors.
I like that.
Yeah, it seems like they found a way to honor both their togetherness and their individuality, which I'm sure a lot of couples can relate to. So they're in the kitchen, they're doing their thing, they've got this togetherness.
Right.
But then the outside world kind of comes in a good way.
Okay.
Because as they're sitting down to eat,
Yes.
something pretty significant happens.
You're talking about the arrival of good news.
The good news arrives.
Just as they're about to dig in.
It's like the universe is like, here's some extra spice for your night.
Right?
What do you think? How does that joy play into how this is all going?
Well, this is where I think the power of context comes in. Our brains don't experience things in isolation.
Right.
Our emotions, our surroundings, it all colors how we perceive and remember events.
Okay.
So this unexpected good news likely amplified their enjoyment of the meal, turning it into what psychologists call a core memory.
Okay, I've heard that term before, core memory. What is that?
So essentially, it's a vivid, emotionally charged memory that feels particularly significant.
Okay.
These are the memories we tend to hold on to, the ones that shape our personal narratives.
Got it.
So in this case, the combination of the delicious meal, the intimate setting, and the surge of positive emotion from the good news
Yeah.
likely created a very powerful, lasting memory for this couple.
It really makes you think, like, how many of our good memories involve food in some way?
Right.
It's like food is love or something like that.
Absolutely.
But they don't just enjoy the meal, they make a toast.
Right.
And they're saying, to us ruling the world.
Yes.
A little ambitious for a Tuesday night, don't you think?
I love that detail. It's
Yeah.
like, while it's likely said in jest, the language we use, even jokingly, can often hint at our underlying desires and aspirations. So ruling the world in this context could signify a shared sense of empowerment, a feeling that they're stepping into a new chapter of their lives full of possibility and potential.
So not actual world domination, but like, we got this kind of thing.
Exactly. It speaks to their shared optimism, their belief in their ability to achieve great things together.
Okay.
This shared meal infused with good news and celebratory toasts seems to represent a pivotal moment for them.
And this is where the source really emphasizes like a shift in their story.
Yes.
It's like this meal with all the emotions and the ritual and everything. It's a transition to like abundance and growth.
That ties into a really fascinating aspect of food rituals. They often coincide with transitions and milestones in our lives.
Oh, interesting.
Think about birthdays, anniversaries, even that first meal in a new home. Food becomes intertwined with these pivotal moments, almost like a sensory bookmark.
It's so true. For me, it's graduations.
Yeah.
Like every graduation, no matter how big or small, we always go out to eat after.
Yeah.
And I can still remember what I ate.
Mm,
It's like the food's part of it somehow.
precisely. And in this case, it's not just a celebration of the good news, but also of their resilience as a couple,
Oh, okay.
their ability to navigate challenges and come out stronger on the other side. This meal, with its meticulously crafted ritual, becomes a symbol of their journey together.
It's just crazy how, like the little things, right?
Yeah,
Like how they are in the kitchen or what they say in a toast.
right.
It tells you so much about them as a couple.
Absolutely. And it highlights the power of observation. By paying attention to these seemingly insignificant details, we can gain a much deeper understanding of the dynamics at play within a relationship.
It's like reading between the lines, but with like food.
Exactly. It's about looking beyond the surface and recognizing the deeper meaning embedded in our everyday actions and interactions.
Yeah.
And sometimes those seemingly insignificant moments, like sharing a meal, can be the most revealing of all.
Makes you think about our own little food things, huh?
It does. It's an invitation to be more mindful, I think, both in how we approach those shared meals and how we interpret those experiences.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What can our listener walk away with from this whole deep dive?
Well, I think it's the reminder that relationships are built not just on the grand gestures, but on the seemingly small, everyday moments. The way this couple approaches cooking together, their shared anticipation, their subtle ways of honoring both their togetherness and individuality, those details speak volumes about the strength of their bond.
Yeah, it's like their own little language.
Exactly. And that's something I think we can all learn from.
Okay.
It's about finding those unique ways to connect with our partners, to create shared meaning, and to savor those everyday moments that make up a life together.
Beautifully said. Well, this has definitely given me a lot to think about, and I hope it's done the same for you listening. Thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
And to everyone listening out there, next time you're in the kitchen with your partner, take a minute and really appreciate it. You never know what you might discover. You know, it's funny how something as ordinary as making dinner can tell you so much about a couple. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. Those little routines, those shared rituals, they always have something deeper going on.
it's so true. And in this deep dive, we're diving into some listener-submitted scenarios about, well, a couple's cooking dynamics.
Yeah.
It's like we've got the blueprints to their kitchen and all the potential chaos.
I cooked already.
Right. So picture this. The first scenario kicks off with, well, with a bit of a clash.
Uh-huh.
One partner's got their heart set on, like gourmet,
Right.
soufflés, fancy sauces, the works.
Ambitious.
Totally. But the other partner, they're craving comfort food. Lasagna, roast chicken, all that good stuff. So what's your take on this initial face-off,
Yeah.
expert? What does it tell us about them before they've even, picked up a spatula?
Well, I think their dish choices speak volumes, really. It's that classic tension between, novelty and tradition. Makes you wonder, does one partner crave, shaking things up in the relationship, while the other finds comfort in predictability, in those familiar dynamics?
Whoa, it's like their plates are like a tiny window into how they approach life together, their individual wants and needs playing out within the relationship.
Precisely. This goes way beyond just the food, right? It's about what those choices represent in the bigger picture of their connection.
And speaking of food as like a form of expression, have you ever noticed how cooking can get so, I don't know, high stakes when you're trying to impress someone? It's like all that pressure to perform.
Oh, tell me about it.
Like, imagine you're trying to wow a new flame with this super complicated dish, but instead of the culinary magic, it's just disaster after disaster. It makes you realize just how much we put into those shared meals, even early on.
Right, absolutely. Food is such a powerful love language, isn't it? We express care and affection through the things we cook for the people we love.
So true. Okay, so our culinary couple, they take this whole food as love language thing to a whole new level. Get this, they're watching a cooking show, and suddenly, bam, it's an impromptu cook-off.
Wow, talk about dedication.
But it's not just any cook-off.
Oh,
No.
Yeah.
The source material says they go full-on no holds barred with a pantry raid.
Okay, now that's my kind of cooking competition.
Right, like a true test of culinary creativity.
Yeah,
And it gets even better.
it does.
Oh, yeah. There's this hilarious bit about how they resort to, like, playful sabotage.
Sabotage,
Yeah,
yes.
like swiping the last clove of garlic, hiding a crucial spice. But here's the thing, they're laughing through the whole thing.
Interesting.
So what's the verdict, expert speaker?
Yeah.
Recipe for disaster, or a sign that these two are rock solid?
Well, it's intriguing how they're handling competition within their relationship, because a bit of rivalry, that can be fun, even healthy, right? But you're
Full.
spot on. The source really highlights the laughter during these moments of the sabotage.
Right.
And that, to me, that suggests a really strong foundation of trust and comfort. They're being playful, not, cutthroat. It tells you they can tease each other, push each other's buttons without taking it too far.
Right. And get this, amidst all the chaos and the garlic swiping, they somehow fall into this unspoken agreement about who does what in the kitchen.
Really?
Yeah, it's like they have this culinary shorthand. One minute they're battling for the cumin, the next they're seamlessly chopping, sautéing, plating. It's amazing how we do that, you know, develop these unspoken rhythms with people we're close to.
It's incredible when you think about it. It speaks to the power of nonverbal communication, those subtle cues, the shared understanding that builds over time.
For sure. And often we're not even conscious of it, right? It's like they've got their own little language happening in the kitchen. But get this playful energy. It takes a total turn as their dishes start to, get serious. It's like a switch flips.
Yeah.
The source material, it describes this almost tangible shift as their dishes start coming together.
Mm-hmm.
The playful banter. Gone. It's like they're laser focused, each one in their own world, with only the sounds of, like, the sizzle of a pan, the chomp of a knife.
I can practically hear it now.
Right, but here's the thing, it's not just, like, cold, intense silence. There are these little moments of, well, genuine affection sprinkled in. Like a quick glance across the counter, a small smile of support. It's like they're drawing strength from each other, even in the midst of all that intensity. What you make of that, expert?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it? Speaks to that delicate dance we do in relationships. That need for connection, that shared purpose, but also you got to have that space for individual focus to tap into your own thing. And what strikes me here is how they seem to navigate those two seemingly opposite energies back and forth without even like missing a beat.
Yeah, they've gone from playfully trying to sabotage each other to this united front, working quietly side by side.
It's almost like they found that unspoken rhythm again, but this time it's about respect, right? Giving each other the space to be in that zone, to really focus without stepping on each other's toes, you know what I mean?
It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of amazing, then comes the grand finale, the plating.
Hmm.
The source material, it makes a point of mentioning how they meticulously arrange their dishes, even snapping photos, like
Uh-huh.
like proud chefs showing off their culinary masterpiece.
Oh, I love that detail.
It's like it's become about so much more than just the food at this point, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about capturing the experience, right? Turning a simple cook-off into this shared memory, something they can look back on. Those photos, they become a reminder of their bond, of their ability to create something pretty amazing together, even if it started with, a little bit of chaos.
Such a great point. And then, of course, comes the moment of truth, the taste
Yeah.
test, and it's a draw.
You're kidding.
No, the source material is very clear about this. They're blown away by each other's dishes, totally unable to say which one is better. So what's the takeaway here? Is a tie like the ideal outcome in this kind of scenario?
I think it speaks volumes about their true motivation. The competition, the playful sabotage, it was all just a way to connect, to have some fun, to create something together. The real prize, the shared experience, the laughter, those quiet moments of focus, and ultimately, they were both deeply nourished, not just by the food, but by the act of creating and experiencing it together.
It's a good reminder that sometimes satisfaction, fulfillment, it doesn't have to be about winning or losing. Sometimes it's about something much more meaningful. And this deep dive, it really got me thinking about all those unspoken rituals we create in the kitchen. Those little moments that make up the recipe of our relationships, right? Whether it's with a partner, family, friends, those inside jokes, those shared techniques, that one dish that takes you right back to childhood. As we wrap things up, we'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite culinary rituals? What are those little things that make cooking with the people you care about so special? Because sometimes the most fulfilling moments are those quiet, unspoken ones, shared over a simple meal. A reminder that we're all in this together, chopping, sautéing, and savoring life one bite at a time.